撃ってる時の坊主、気合入ってたな。
Yeah, he sure is. Alright, well, let's go to the next stage, like, real quick right over here. We need the information, like this take. Let's go.
結構怖かったぜ。
よく言われます。自分ではそんなに目つき変えてるつもりはないんですがね。そんなに怖い目になってましたか？
Yes. The three of us nodded emphatically in agreement. So that was Akasaka-kun, the mahjong prodigy. Before he goes home from his assignment, maybe I could have him go play at a high-stakes table at my place. It's not good to get greedy.
じゃあ仕方ないや。約束です。夜の学習会はこれでお開きにしましょう。申し訳ありませんね、おやっさん。今夜はこれでお開きです。
しゃあねえな。消えて寝るわ。体力つけんと体が持たん。
お仕事が大変なんですか？
ああ、おやっさんはHinamizawaダムの第一工区の監督さんなんです。住民とは連日小競り合いをしてますからね。しんどい商売ですよ。
来年あたり第二工区も任されちまうかもしれねえな。
Whew. I didn't expect that we have such a person like that, like right here.
黒田さん、血圧上がりまくりって聞いたしよ。身が持たねえや。
おやっさんなら大丈夫でしょう。あなた、見た目よりも面の皮厚めですしね。
俺だって仏じゃねえからな。腹渡にくり返るときあるぞ。特に、園崎のあの小娘は我慢がならん。あいつの顔面、いつか簡単には治らんくらいに歪ませたろって思ってる。
まあ。でも、給料はいいんでしょ？かなり破格の給金だって聞きましたよ。
おっとりめえだ。あんなに世知辛い職場で給料が安かったら誰も残らんよ。あ、クラウド。警察はいつになったら村の人間全部追っ払ってくれるんだ。国から立ち退き命令とか出てるんだろ？
ねえ、どうなってるんでしょうね。
The old man, who identified himself as the foreman of the Hinamizawa dam, spewed a few complaints until he felt better about it, then left quietly. Oh, that was quite a surprise.
じゃ、行きましょう。あとは佐藤さんに任せますかね。
大石さんは帰られるんですか？
私が一緒でもお邪魔しちゃうだけでしょ。
Alright.
それに佐藤さんの仕事を買ったのはあなたです。私は対価を払ってませんからね。
Oisha-san was kind of sketchy, but he was strangely conscientious about some things. I felt quite a bit of a gap between myself and Oishi's generation from that part of him I didn't comprehend.
じゃあ坊主、いや、ジャンシ様にもう坊主なんて言えねえな。赤坂くんでよかったっけ？
Sounds good.
はい。
じゃあ赤坂くん、行こうか。
では赤坂さん。
Man, for someone like Akasaka who is a beginner, well, not quite a beginner, like policeman, but for someone like him to be so lucky to be this close to one of the important people that are part of the Hinamizawa dam construction, that's quite something, because that man surely knows the minister. Like, that surely must be quite a source of information. If he is part of it as well, if he knows what the minister is doing. Like, that is a pot of gold right over there that walked away. And we just met him on the second day here.
また。何か困ったことがあったらいつでも頼りに来てくださいね。
大石さんにお支払いできるような対価はもう持ってませんよ。
んじゃ、 今度の勝負で少し手加減してもらえたらチャラにしますよ。
And Oishi more than likely knew that that person is going to be important to our investigation over here. Reason why he brought that person here as well. Even though we're not going to get the information out of him, but from Sato this night, more than likely he's going to play like an important part here in learning about the kidnapping and such. So that's why Oishi brought him as well here specifically. Unless they were already friends even before this and they play like mahjong or such like every single day. In which case, whew, what luck we have. Oishi, seeming still not having had his fill of playing around, but without overstaying his welcome, disappeared into the night. Alright, well, bye Oishi. The informant, named Sato-san, had me get into his car before he set off. He favored narrow roads and made numerous short left turns.
左折法による尾行確認ですか？
詳しいな。
Checking to see if you were being tailed by making left turns was a rather classic technique. If it was just a single pursuer, you could confirm it that way. But if you were being tailed as a team, this archaic method wouldn't let you shake them. Of course, doing it anyway was better than not.
赤坂君が何者かは旦那から何も聞いてないんだが、やっぱり警察関係かい？尾行確認に詳しいなんて、あとは探偵者くらいしか思いつかねえね。
言わなければならないものでないなら、拒否したい質問ですね。
やれやれ。麻雀やってからすっかり雰囲気が大人びちまったな。会った時のあのおどおどしたあんたはどこ行っちゃったんだよ。
I smiled wryly. Looking back now, I had to be a little grateful for being made to play mahjong. Thanks to that, I was able to release some tension. Eventually, Sato-san, confirming that there were no cars following us, stepped outside the city. We were on a pitch-black country road, unable to see anything besides the lights outside. The only things I was able to hear were the hum of the car's air conditioning and the chirping of insects and frogs.
旦那からHinamizawa村については多少のことは聞いてんだろ？
Yeah.
御三家という旧家による支配や、現在は園崎家が一党独裁をしているとか、そういう話ですか？
そこまで知ってるなら、くだらない前置きは省略していいな。
では、お願いします。犬飼大臣の孫の誘拐に、鬼ヶ淵死守同盟が関与しているか否かを。
Sato-san checked the rearview mirror one more time to confirm there wasn't anybody behind us before speaking.
昨夜、園崎本家で親族会議が開かれたそうだ。親族会議ってのは、旦那から聞いてるか？
いえ。
普通に親族会議って言ったら、まあ、親戚が集まってお茶でも飲むようなもんだよな。だが、園崎本家の親族会議っていうのは、そんなのんびりしたものとはわけが違う。
A family council held by the Sonaki main house. There will be a meeting between those who truly control Hinamizawa village. They won't be talking about private family members. It will be about the village as a whole. About organizing activities against the dam project. Among other things, everything would be decided there. In reality, they were deciding the fate of the village. At the head of the meeting was Oryo Sonozaki, more or less called the Empress Sonozaki. As the ultimate decision maker of the clan, she was to be feared and respected. Infirm with old age, she was often unable to stand on her own, but her words carried enough weight to sway the fate of the village. It seemed that lately she had grown weak, and on days where she wasn't feeling well, remained bedridden, Family councils that occurred while she wasn't feeling well took place with her on the floor. In the middle of a dignified Japanese-style room, still in a futon, only the upper half of her body sitting upright, a stern look on her face. That was Oryo Sonozaki. Sitting next to her was her heir, Mion Sonozaki. She was still young. No, young wasn't quite the right word. She was a girl who remained childish. A baby. Her role was to merely sit beside Oryo Sonozaki, sometimes responding to her requests. However, she was the only one deemed worthy to succeed Oryo. She had the same hawkish eyes, enough to give pause to anybody who so much as looked at them. Much was expected of her in the future, this granddaughter of the Sonozaki's leader. I wonder what's up with Mion's mother though. That's something that I'm curious about. And also on either side of her sat several other important members of the remaining three family. The Kimiyoshi family and the Furuta family. First on the list for the Kimiyoshi family was of course the mayor of Hinamizawa village, Kiichiro Kimiyoshi. And lined up beside him were several more of his direct relatives. Opposite to them sat the other of the three families, the Furuta family. The Furuta family was only comprised of the family of a Shinto priest, so the only ones sitting there were said priest, his wife, and their daughter Rika. Rika was doted on by many of the older folks in the village, and it seemed that Oryo was no exception. While the stress from just attending a family council was said to be enough to shorten your lifespan by 3 days, it seemed like Rika was the only one exempt from that. No matter how charged the atmosphere was around her, she paid it no mind, instead humming along as she doodled in a sketchbook. In fact, the night before, lying on her stomach while humming and doodling, she nonchalantly tucked her legs into Oryo's futon like it was a kotatsu. Okay. All this was the three families. And all around the room, lying row upon row, were relatives of the Sonozaki family. Jesus. The only ones who were afforded cushions. The only ones who were afforded cushions to sit on were direct relatives. The others were left to sit in the seiza position directly on the tatami mats. I mean, just imagine how it looks. Like, you have the Kimiyoshis and the Sonozakis in the middle, and all around them were the Sonozakis, like a room chock full of them. Like, the literal embodiment of, like, the spitting image of the main family, the Sonozakis, being in power. Like, that's the image right there, with Empress Sonozaki enshrined at their center. They're almost like a giant snake coiled around the room. Exactly. It was decided that everybody would sit in order of their rank. On the first seat, it's Kinzo, and then the second... okay, just joking. The number of people from the Sonozaki family was overwhelming. The fact that the Sonozaki family held so many seats at a meeting where everything pertaining to the village was decided made determining where the balance of power was held in the three families as clear as day. The numbers of members in attendance from each of the families directly reflected how much influence they had in ruling Hinamizawa.
その会議で何が話されたんですか?
Sato-san, after remaining silent for a while, quietly began to speak.
マスコミ関係に支払ってる謝礼金の額が大きいんじゃないかい?
Breaking the long moment of silence was the head of the Kimiyoshi family, Kiichiro Kimiyoshi. The Onikafuchi Guardians wasn't a business. They were nothing more than a private organization pushing for the cancellation of the Hinamizawa Dam project, with no reliable source of income. Fundraising had always been a problem. When they first started operating, they had managed to collect a sizable amount of funds through donations. But as the conflict dragged on, that amount was steadily declining.
石を投げるだけが全ての時代じゃないさ。マスコミの力も侮れないのは重々承知しているし、今後もその力を借りたいのは同じさ。
The expressions that people related to the Sonaki family were so. As the one who suggested that they should borrow that power was the family head, Oryo Sonaki. The battle wasn't just about force of arms. In this civilized age, there were civilized methods of fighting. Oryo suggested that, creating a strategy incorporating the mass media. Oryo's foresight was spot on, and the effects of that plan, while at first unclear, slowly began to manifest. Yet the physical confrontation at the construction site was meant to delay progress on the dam by even one day. Then the propaganda war using the media was aimed at attacking the dam project itself. At first, there were those who had doubts about the strategy, but there was nobody now who called those results into question. Alright, but in order to maintain those media ties, a colossal amount of money was required. Therefore, as long as the amount of funds they had was abundant, things would turn out fine. To summarize, they needed a lot of money right now. It's never gonna get old, I swear. It couldn't be argued that it was a massive expense, but the results spoke for themselves. But with the conflicts continuing to crack on, the circumstances had changed. The head of the Sonaki family, no, the one who sat at the pinnacle of the Hinamizawa's three families, Oryo, had suggested the idea herself, so it was already untouchable and continued to be allowed to drain from the budget. Nobody acknowledged that it should be so allowed, but nobody could say anything. That was the price of dealing with the mass media.
どう思うお嬢さん。
The only person who could object to a plan proposed by the head of the Sonaki household herself was probably Mayor Kimiyoshi. Oryo, with a hard-to-define expression on her face, as if she had severed herself from the fetters of mortal emotion, simply listened quietly to Kimiyoshi's words. But really, it was hard to tell if she was quietly listening or didn't even have the intention of listening at all.
去年機関士の値上げの理解を得るのにも随分苦労したじゃない。一度だけってことで理解を得て、また今年もってわけにはいかないよ。ねえ、古手さん。
The mayor looked to the priest and his wife from the Furude family for affirmation. The priest gave a vague expression, avoiding a prompt response. But his wife gave her answer without a second thought.
そうですね。機関士代は特に貧しい家には大きな負担になっています。みんな自分たちの村のためだからと耐えていますが、これ以上の値上げはやめた方がいいでしょうね。
The bulletin was, as its name implied, a bulletin published by the Onigafuji Guardians. It outlined the Alliance's activities, ideals, and resolve, but he couldn't deny the contents were rather piecemeal. That bulletin's main goal wasn't to inform people, but rather was something to sell to businesses and people living in the village or connected to it, and using those sales to collect funds. In other words, it had become something of a tax. Of course, it didn't have to be said that this was one of the main sources of income for the Onigafuji Guardians. Originally, purchase was supposed to be voluntary, but in Hinamizawa it had suddenly become the opposite. In the neighboring towns as well, it seemed that many businesses were buying copies just to avoid butting heads with the Alliance. The priest whispered to his wife not to say anything unnecessary, but was struck down decidedly with a cold glare. Cowering from that glare, the priest shut his mouth. The priest's wife always held the power in the relationship. Seems like it. I mean, not just his wife, but apparently in the food, like the girls specifically held more power. I guess in similar fashion to the Sonaki, it's like Mion is gonna be the new heir. We have Oryo right over here. Like, women are surely in power of these two families. I'm saying that because before it did seem like the Shinto priest was the one who was more in power, so to speak, but no, apparently the wife also has some power in this as well. That was because she was the one who carried it through the bloodline. Yeah. The priest merely married into the family. Like, it did seem like the priest, whenever we talked about his death, he was the more important part of, like, the chains of victims and such. But the wife was also important. He was nothing more than somebody who adopted the name just to join the three families. I mean, not to mention that it is just as I said before, like, priests are very important in all Japanese villages and such. They are important to, like, history and such, in the Japanese and such. He should have been able to find a spot fairly high up in the hierarchy of things. But the lack of authority in his voice meant that he had still not gained any favor. Casting a backwards glance at her rather disparate parents, Rika continued to doodle whimsically, without paying them any mind. Signaled by a look from Oreo, Mion brought her ear closer to her grandma. You know, I was thinking about how Rika knew that Arasaka was from Tokyo. Like, I was looking back at the conversation that Akasaka had over the phone with Makino, the tour guide, like the day before they went on the tour trip. Like, on the day when Oishi brought Akasaka into the village and such, like that night. I was thinking that maybe Rika was eavesdropping on the call on Makino's side. And that would be where she knew that Akasaka was from Tokyo, because maybe Akasaka accidentally dropped the hint that he was from Tokyo, but nah, that's not it. Akasaka tried his best to not let that information slip that he was from Tokyo. I mean, that's why he didn't even decide to go with the car, because that would have been a like a slip up of information that he would be from Tokyo or something like that, because the license plate. So he decided to go with the bus instead. So no, I don't think that Rika learned that he was from Tokyo from there. But what if she learned from this meeting? I guess we shall see, because we have a lot of people right over here. Maybe they did manage to get some information out of Akasaka that there is this random dude that came from Tokyo that may be investigating into the family, and they would have to be careful. Maybe that's where Rika learned that he's from Tokyo. I guess we shall see, because this meeting happened the day before the tour. So there, something was said to her in a quiet voice. After responding with a couple of questions, with a nod from Oreo, Mion looked around the room and conveyed her grandmother's words.
機関士の値上げもやむを得ません。
Kimiyoshi made a face like he had just bit into something unpleasant. But that expression quickly disappeared like it had never happened at all.
だけどミオンちゃん、君だって分かってると思うけど、機関士の負担は決して軽いものじゃない。hinamizawaのすべての人間にかかる重みなんだ。あんまり負担をかけすぎれば内部から崩れることだって。
Actually, I'm thinking the opposite. Push comes to shove, if we keep increasing the prices, then that will mean that more people are gonna become more violent. And it will be to their advantage, because that way, the more violence, the more effective it will be to stop the damn project in their eyes. Maybe that's what they're trying to do. It's not necessarily a cost thing, but rather a desperation thing. Cornering a wolf. Well, unless it's gonna bite them in the ass and they're gonna go after the Sonozakis and not the damn project. That could be a possibility as well. That would create chaos, so... Like, either the poor families are gonna become desperate and go after the Sonozakis, like the main families, or they're gonna go after the damn project.
内部から崩れるのは誰ですか？
どれって別にそういう意味じゃ。
最初に崩れるのは誰かと聞いています。
Being cross-examined by a girl who still had fragments of childishness remaining within her, the words stuck in Kimiyoshi's throat as he sunk in silence. Jesus. These poor babies. They had to mature so fast for their age because of the circumstances of Hinamizawa. We have Mion, we have Rika, who may have ended up getting some trauma, and because of that, she has this split personality that makes her seem more adult and scary. That's just my theory, like the split personality thing, to protect herself. Like, we also have Rena, who more than likely is smart because of the circumstances of Hinamizawa. And, well, there's also Satoko, who is nothing but trauma. Mion repeated her question once more, looking around the crowded room. Everybody refrained from making eye contact to avoid being pierced by her gaze. The words she had spoken were inarguably said in proxy for audio. I mean, I say that jokingly, but Satoko also had to learn to, live by herself with Rika, learn how to cook and such, without the help of Satoshi, so yeah, she went through some stuff. All the babies went through a lot of stuff. That's why when Mion spoke them, they carried the same weight. But the look in her eyes was different. Like Orio's, they had a hawkish gaze, strong enough that anybody looking upon them would freeze in their tracks and yield. But that gaze was without question one that belonged to Mion herself. As Mion would eventually inherit everything from Orio, the day when she would stand up as a young and capable leader in her own right would come. Nobody wanted to believe otherwise for even a minute. That's why nobody even thought of Mion as just some sort of little kid.
君吉さん、機関士の値上げごときでは誰の決意も崩れませんよ。
Kimiyoshi, while grumbling a little bit, made a gesture as if to say he had no objection.
マスコミ関係への出費は継続とします。その出費がさらに圧迫となるようなら、機関士の値上げもやむを得ない。
Mion had rendered her judgment. The baby has spoken. Everybody bowed their heads to the baby, silently listening to her words.
園崎家当主代行、園崎ミオンです。我が名において、以上決定し、決定の効力は即日発行されるものとします。異議はこれを認めず、抵抗ある場合は、実力をもって排除します。
The formal decree was read aloud, indicating her judgment. There would be no retrial. But there was a certain authority behind those words that even a courthouse couldn't compare to. If she was a judge, she would have banged her gavel, signaling that the matter was settled. That's exactly what I was imagining. The judge has spoken. Mion pulled out a large bell from inside her clothes and rang it. Everybody present could only prostrate themselves before the harsh sound of the bell.
なんとも大時代的な親族会議ですね。
あんたみたいな若いもんにはちょっと信じられないだろうけどね。こういう古い土地にはこんなのが未だ根強く残ってるもんさ。
Yes, exactly as Oishi had said. The old system of the three families had vanished, and now the Sonozaki family was running things by themselves. On top of that, their role was borderline despotic. Does seem that way.
会議はそれで終わりですか？
いや、まだ続く。
Okay, thankfully. Thankfully, it's not just that.
先を続けるよ。
Alright. Eventually, after the ringing of the bell ceased, there was a deafening silence. Within all that, a lone man shuffled closer to Mion and whispered something in her ear. Mion asked several questions quietly in response. When she was satisfied, she mentioned for the man to leave. The man who talked to Mion was a member of a gang that her father was the leader of. The organization had the entire area of Shishibone City under its control, so it was quite well known even here. Of course, this was talking about a criminal underworld, so it's not like just anybody would know. But just showing a patch with a gang symbol on it was enough to resolve any disputes in the neighborhood. Mion's biological father, the Ori, was her daughter's husband. The power of that man's gang was the driving force that controlled the dark underbelly of the Onigafuchi Guardians. And so that man, from his position as the next in the line to control the three families, continued to coerce everybody around him with his unconventional presence. Mion exchanged a look with her father. Was it okay for her to tell what she just heard directly to Oreo? It looked like she was asking him that question. Her father gently but firmly nodded in response. Mion also nodded, then sidled up to Oreo and informed her of something. I wonder if it's about the kidnapping. Because, okay, thinking about the criminal underground and the Yakuzas and such, it does seem that the father is the one who is in control of the Yakuza that works for the Sonakis. With that being said though, I wonder if we're gonna learn that it is the husband who took the initiative of kidnapping the grandson of the minister. And now Mion and Oreo are gonna learn about this. That it's not necessarily a decision that Oreo had made first, and then made the husband and the Yakuzas do the job, but the opposite way around. I don't know. I don't know if such a strong decision like that would be made without Oreo's consent first. So, I get a feeling that if kidnapping would happen in the name of the Sonakis and all the families and such, Oreo would know first. Eventually, Mion finished conveying her message, separated herself from Oreo, and fixed her posture, waiting for Oreo to signal a response. Unless it's just an update from the husband in regards to the kidnapping that, hey, the kidnapping was a success. And Oreo has learned extra information about this. It wasn't often that Oreo showed any emotion. That's why when she started to laugh quietly, a vague sense of uneasiness crept over everybody too.
そら、難儀なこともあったものよの。
The conundrum. Oreo was laughing so happily that Kimiyoshi had to hesitantly ask.
どうしたんだい、お嬢さん。
我らにとって土地が母なら、この度のダムの騒ぎは、母の命を脅かされる騒ぎっちゅうことだろうな。
Kimiyoshi, unable to comprehend the meaning of her words, looked confused. Oreo, with a wide grin on her face, turned towards everybody and addressed them in a clarion voice.
ダムの親玉の大臣がの、孫さらわれちまって、右往左往しとるっちゅう話だ。こんれでおあいこだの。
バカな。
Information on the kidnapping of Minister Inukai's grandson shouldn't have leaked from anywhere. How did they know? Even we didn't know much about the kidnapping incident. Say, how did an antiquated household so far away from Tokyo come to know of it? Unless they are the ones responsible for it. It was a tranquil place, but I couldn't help but have an uneasy feeling about Hinamizawa village. Though, okay, if I'm to be honest right over here, it is their job to know everything, and I mean everything, about the Hinamizawa project. And that would mean the circumstances of the minister. Like, I wish the conversation continued even more, to the point where we would learn that, yes, it is Audio and the family who orchestrated the kidnapping. Otherwise, what we just saw right over there is just them learning about the kidnapping, and Audio saying that, I guess now we're even. Like, who knows, maybe somebody else is the one who kidnapped maybe somebody else was the one who kidnapped the grandson, without the family knowing. And now they learn about this and they said, apparently the minister is rattled over the kidnapping of his grandson. I guess that makes us even then. It's in our favor. We're not the one who did this, but hey, that will surely help us. I don't know. Like, I'm still holding like that possibility that it was not them. But as it stands, though, I guess we're gonna go with the idea that it was indeed the family who did this. And let's see. At some point, I have mentally filed this place away as unrelated to the incident at hand. That mental paperwork had just blown away in the wind. But then again...
どうして鬼ヶ淵死守同盟が知っているんだ
Unless they're the ones who did it. Sato-san, unable to come up with an answer, fell into silence.
すみません続きをお願いします
Yes, please. Please, I want to know. Like, we have to continue the dialogue right over here.
なあ。
犬飼建設大臣のお孫さんがさらわれた。お嬢さん、それは本当かい？
Okay, so apparently Kimiyoshi and more likely the Furudes have not known about this. If Oryo and the Sonozakis are the ones responsible for the kidnapping, they made the decision even before the other families knew about this. It wasn't something that all of them decided on this. It comes as a surprise to Kiichiro. The major of an incident was nowhere to be seen in the newspapers or on TV. But in Hinamizawa, there was nothing strange about Oreo knowing something that the rest of the world didn't.
我らの痛みは母を失う痛みじゃの。それに値するとは思わんが、孫を失う痛み。少しは答えるといいんじゃがの。なあ。
The last question wasn't addressed to anybody in particular. It was as if she was looking for a consensus.
だが、土地と人様の子供ではわけが違うの。隠すのは構わんが、怪我だけはさせたくないものよの。
Okay, so yeah, I guess that's 100% confirmation that Oreos are the ones like Oreo and Sonozakis are the ones responsible for this. Like, they are hiding. Then they mean no harm to befall him. So yeah, clearly the Sonozakis are the ones responsible for this.
こにゃ何の罪もねえ。大事にしたれな。
それはつまり鬼ヶ淵死守同盟が誘拐事件に関与しているということ。
うん。必ずしもそうとは言えねえな。
You can't say for certain.
どうして当主であるお領がこれほどまではっきりと誘拐した孫の処遇について指示を出しているのに。
兄さん、こりゃね、園崎家のいつものことなんだよ。
いつものこと？それはどういう意味です？
Let's say there was a particular problem, one that wasn't exactly favorable for the Sonozaki family. If Oreo shows concern over that particular problem, hearing that, somebody who attended the family council would be helpful. As a result, Oreo's wish would be granted. However, neither Oreo or anybody else would know who actually did it. With this kind of clever little ploy, the Sonozaki family was able to manipulate events even though they had their hands laid out on a table.
では、親族会議に出席していた誰かが犯人ということですか？
あるいはそもそも犯人なんかいない可能性だってあるよな。
Huh. Interesting.
俺自身、その万座の一同の中に誘拐犯がいるって確信を持ってるわけじゃない。
Yeah, exactly.
ただ、自分の意見を述べただけさ。
Like, that's what I was trying to say before about having my opinions open. Even though it seems so obvious that the Sonozakis are the ones who did it. Who knows, maybe there's gonna be like a plot twist going on. That's how murder mysteries go when it comes to this sort of stuff. It was not an unpleasantly secretive way of doing things. Were they involved or weren't they? I couldn't see beyond the veil. Like, it's as if there is this option of how the Sonozakis are gonna be the ones to be seen as the monsters in this case, which would mean that they are protecting somebody. They are protecting the actual culprit who did the kidnapping. It's as if they are they are trying to hide the fact that there is somebody else who did it. Like, they may have like a secret helper that they don't want anybody to find about. And they're gonna pin the crime on themselves, even though it was somebody else. The whole point of this is not only to hurt the damn project by kidnapping the grandson, but also to not, like, show all their cards, if you know what I'm trying to say over here. Like, of course, Oreo and the Sonozakis, they are not gonna show their cards and say that, oh, the secret fourth family or these two people or something like that are the ones who helped us in this. We are the ones who did the kidnapping, not this secret third party are the ones who did that. So they could be hiding like some other important people that we're not aware of. Or maybe there was some other ploy at hand right over here. This much, however, I could say with certainty. This kidnapping was an ironclad secret. No matter how high a position somebody was in, even they wouldn't know about. And especially, let's not forget the fact that apparently Kiichiro didn't know about this. This was a surprise to him. Maybe this secret weapon, this secret third party that Oreo is using, is one of the main weapons that she's using in order to stay in power. And, you know, if this secret weapon is something to be revealed, then the Kimiyoshis and the Furude, they're gonna have some beef with that. So, yeah. It's much more in favor for the Sonozakis to say that they're the ones who did the kidnapping to show power that they can actually do that, rather than show their weapon, which could cause some commotion within the families. It's much more in favor for them to show that they're actually capable of doing such a thing, and that the Kimiyoshis and the Furude, they have no say in this. Like, the Sonozakis didn't even tell the other families about the kidnapping, like, because their opinions did not matter in this. That's how much they are in power. That's how they stay in power, to show the other families that they are weak and that they have no say in all of this, by showing that they can actually do even kidnappings like this. That's my opinion about this. Like, it doesn't matter. They don't have to know until the last moment. If there was somebody who would know about it, they would be connected to public safety. In other words, one of us. The only option were people connected to the case itself. Including the minister, there will be people affected by the incident.